Ladies, are you ready for some real talk? The AchieveHERs Unfiltered podcast isn't a bunch of fluffy stuff about career fashion or networking do's and don'ts. It's real heart-to-heart conversations with inspiring leaders. It's from women, by women, and for women. Tune in for a panel discussion on today's hottest topics that women face every day. We'll also discuss things that rarely enter the conversation. Subscribe to the AchieveHERs Unfiltered podcast on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you like to watch or listen.
Yeah.
All right, so there's our second soul, folks. Put your face in there. This is who makes the magic happen. This is also who makes the magic happen, and we are here with AchieveHERs Unfiltered at Second Soul Studios. If you ladies want to introduce yourself, I'm the host, Kelly Jordan.
I'm Julie Perrelli.
Awesome.
I'm Sharon Fekete.
I'm Sherri Heilman.
I love it. So today's topic is what inspires you. And this can be anything. I mean, there's a lot of content there.
Well, like I said when we were just chatting, I'm inspired by so many things and so many people constantly, every day, all day long. And I've been thinking about it. And the first thing that popped in my head was my grandchildren inspire me. They inspire me to make a better planet. They may inspire me to make a better life, a better world. But I'm inspired every day when we're doing all these things with AchieveHERs and all these events with all these wonderful women. I think back on myself. I reinvented myself back when I became 50, when I started selling our wine. And I went down to South Florida and started pounding the pavement and got a gig at Whole Foods. And I started driving around the state selling wine and teaching people about Oregon wines. And, you know, I remember being like, how can I do this? But I'm inspired every time I read a story about someone who does just that, especially a woman. And I love that.
What made you reinvent yourself?
I really was working at the restaurant, but I didn't work as much as I wanted to, and I wasn't really working a lot. And Foxy Rock, that's the name of our vineyard, that's the name of our property in Oregon.
Name.
I do too.
Foxy.
Mm-hmm. Sexy soil.
Ooh.
Look up the word foxy in the dictionary, in Webster's dictionary, and it means sexy.
I like
Foxy
it.
soil. I love it.
You got to have good soil or you don't have good grapes.
Oh, I love that.
That's awesome.
But we had a lot of inventory, and we really had, it was a crazy time when we were trying to make our wine and keep things going. And I said, I've got to do something. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that looks like, but I've got to do something. And my daughter worked for a liquor distributor at the time. And she said, Mom, you're just going to have to get off your ass and do it. And I said, I know, but what does that look like? And then she said, all you have to do is come down here and just do some drive-alongs with some of our reps that are in the wine world, and you'll figure it out.
That's awesome.
And so that's what I did, and I loved every minute of it.
I bet you inspired her after you did that.
Yeah, I've got some pretty great kids. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. What about you?
Well, I am inspired by the women at this table, that's for sure. And that's what I was thinking about, moving here from New York. It'll be 18 years this week, which I can't believe. I didn't know one person. And I was working for somebody else. I got a job, so I didn't have to worry about, meeting people. But then when I opened my business, 8 years ago, and I went to my first Working Women at Tampa Bay event, and the founder, Jessica Ravelli, had known what I did and immediately, pulled me and said, I have to introduce you to this person and this person. And then it just it kept happening, but it really mostly happened. I won't say only, but I will say mostly happened with women, women really helping other women. And I was just introduced to a great woman, Heidi from Pace, that I'm really excited to go to their luncheon. I've never been involved with Pace for Girls, and it's near and dear to my heart to help anybody that might be struggling with whatever it is, just depression or addiction. So I think that women that really, really help women, and Sharon and I have had this conversation many times before that, It's very easy. You know, I've been in business for over 8 years now by myself, so I know people, thank goodness. And so when I go into a room, I might know a few people, not some of the people we were talking about before we hit record today, but I'm sure too. And, you know, if I can take somebody that just moved here or is just opening a business and say, I need you to meet these women from AchieveHERs, like that to me is the greatest gift, you know, so because it's inspiring to me because I've seen it happen from other women. So I just want to keep passing that on because it can be a very lonely thing.
Yeah, not a lot of people do that. You know, I know you and I have had conversations about achievers and women helping women, and you were one of the first people to say, I back it up when I say I'm going to help move the dial if I can.
Yeah.
And I was very lucky when I moved here that I had someone who inspired me and who took me under their wing, and that was Ruth Stone. And she thought it was really cool that I moved here from Washington, D.C. because she had lived there. But instead of just sitting there and, you know, talking about D.C. and having a few drinks, she said, I'm going to take you with me to every event that I go to. And she went to a lot of events. And she said, I know what you do for a living, and I know it's really hard, and I know you're brand new, and you know 0 people here. So I'm going to take you to all of these events as my guest and introduce you to people. And when I say she literally locked arms with me and walked me around and introduced me to so many people who are now donors, just because she said, I'm going to do that for you.
It's everything.
It really is.
Truly being so
and
lucky
she
to have
was
that.
such an inspiration to me.
Yeah.
Oh, she was
I was
incredible.
telling somebody, we were talking at the luncheon last week, and I was telling them when Sharon interviewed me for 13th Avenue, when we interviewed for Amplify, and she asked me, because there were no pre-questions. We didn't know what she was going to ask me.
So this is very comfortable for me.
Yeah.
So I had no idea what she was going to ask me, and she said, she asked me who was my mentor when I was growing up. Well, I didn't have one. So I quickly had to change the conversation to something else, because without trying to fumble, but I know that there are a lot of people like that they don't have mentors. I mean, their mentor may be, you know, whatever television show they're looking at, saying, I want to be that person, or I want to be in that family. I don't want to be in my family. I want to be in that family. Yeah. Which I did that a lot too. But to be someone's mentor is that motivates me to want to do that. I mean, that's just something that I don't think people really, they say they have a mentor, they had a mentor, but I don't really believe that everybody that says it does.
And you can't help but bring it up, mentors, when you're talking about people who inspire you, because that's really what a mentor's job is.
Exactly.
Is to inspire you to be the best person. Now, it could be a workplace mentor, a personal mentor. But what about you, Julie?
Perfect segue. I was going to say I had a workplace mentor turned personal mentor. Is it okay if I take this off?
Yeah.
I feel like I hear myself in a creepy way. So tell me if I'm not loud enough. I worked with Kathy Raybon for a really short time at the Girl Scouts. And it was such an interesting time for me because I had sort of gone after my first leadership role. I didn't get it. And I had said to the CEO at the time, if it's not me and you bring a good mentor in for me, I'm staying. I'm not going to run off or anything. So the person she chose was Kathy, and it was like the most meant to be thing for me. Kathy was there an incredibly short time because another opportunity came for her. And I tell people to this day, and it's been a lot of years ago, you know, in the short, maybe like 3 to 4 months that we worked together, when Kathy left, she said, listen, I want to sit down and talk with you about something. And she had a paper front and back that she handed me and said, this is my development plan that I drafted out for you and what you need to do to get to where you want to be. And I was like, who does that?
Wow,
like,
that's amazing.
That's incredible.
I've never forgotten it. And I was like, I just can't believe that. Like, it made me feel really special that she took the time to do that for me. And it's inspired me to feel like that's the kind of boss and that's the kind of mentor I want to be to other people. I want to lift people up and I want to help them be successful. And it's, you know, who I've tried to be. And I'm so fortunate, like my CEO now is such an amazing mentor to me. And secure enough in her role to know that one day I want her job and she's training me for it. Like, I'm fine with that. And I'm like, you are what I was looking for, because there are women who are threatened by someone who is under them, who's too close or whatever it is. And to find someone who's so incredibly successful sort of in our sphere that we work in, that's willing to mentor me and teach me the things I don't know that might have nothing to do with my job, but she'll say, you know, this, to be a CEO one day, you need to learn these things, is such an inspiration to me, because it's like Kathy, I'm like, that's who I want to be. That's who I want to be to other women, for sure.
And you said something so important. Like, you said that she was secure. And I think that the women that are secure within themselves and confident, they really want nothing more than to help you, because they realize that when you put that out into the universe, it's going to come back to you like a million times more. I remember when I made the decision, I was considering writing a book, and I was walking on the Courtney Campbell Causeway with my friend LaFern Beatty, who I brought to the luncheon, our signature luncheon, which was fantastic, last week. And she said, so what are you thinking about for this year? And I had purposely chosen to meet with her where she was. She liked to work out, so I'm like, oh, great, I got to go meet her on the Causeway. She's going to make me run or something. It's going to be awful. And she asked me what I was up to, and I said, I was thinking about writing a book. And she said, well, I'd be happy to share my outline. And I couldn't believe it, you know. But there were two things about that. Number one, she was secure enough to do it. And Maggie Rodriguez talked about this a lot at our luncheon. But I also was willing to ask to meet with her. Like, you also have to be willing to ask those women that you might think are not going to help you. Those are usually actually the ones that will help you the most.
Yeah.
You know, so I was really inspired by her willingness to, and so many examples like that of just women that want to help because they've gained their own success and they want to see you come.
Don't you think people take that as a compliment? Like, if someone said, "Will you mentor me? Because such and such."
Oh my gosh, yes.
I'd be like, "Yeah, when can we meet? Let's have coffee. I'll buy." Like,
Yeah.
That's such a nice. It's complimentary when someone asks of your time in that way.
Totally.
Yeah.
But there's so many people that just sit back and say nothing because they're afraid of rejection. And somebody's got to be their voice and step up and say, you can do this. But you said something else too. We were talking about CEO, and it's letting you learn her role. You have to let your staff take ownership of their position within the company. They won't care about it otherwise. They won't do it the same way that you want them to do it if they're not allowed to have a voice and make some decisions. And so therefore you've got to, and quite frankly, my son, he's not listening to this or ever going to listen to this, but he doesn't understand why I do that a lot of times. I let my staff make decisions collectively about things that are important that we need to do together the same way, or I'll let them have a personal relationship with a customer where they're making reservations through them or something. And then they tell me, so-and-so's coming or whatever. And I'm like, oh, they're great. They're back in town. And he, that understanding of that gives him a role as somebody of importance within this company. Otherwise, you just show up for the money, then you're not going to do the same kind of job.
We're talking about, we've all basically touched on, you talked a little bit more about family as far as, who inspires you and why you do what you do. And then we kind of went into going into the workplace. We're all professional women, and I'm sure that we've been told by others that, oh, you just said it, I'm inspired by the women in this room. I think that there's probably a part of all of us that do what we do in order to inspire other folks, and especially in this group, with Achievers, because, that's inevitably what we want to do, is we want to inspire, we want to mentor, we want to bring everyone together. How can we do more of that? Actually do more of that? Because, we talk it and I feel like we're walking it, but how do we as professional women, whether it's to our families or to our colleagues or to our friends, what do we do to inspire others more in a positive way, both personally and professionally?
think you make yourself available. I really have felt that, I think we've talked about this at one of the Achievers meetings. There's, and I forget what country it was, Sweden, Switzerland, something like that, where they use the library, and instead of borrowing a book, you borrow a person.
Oh, that's interesting.
And so you're there, and you all know why you're there, because there's people that are there that want to talk to you, and you're there to just listen and maybe give advice if they want it, but that's not necessarily always what everyone wants. They just want to be able to unload it onto someone else or get rid of it or just make themselves feel better because they don't have anybody to talk to. But I've always wanted to do something like that. We had opportunities a couple of times to be able to do that with Achievers, and that was inspiring because you could see the looks on the room. You knew who the strong women in the room were. And you knew when someone came over to you and said, you just look like, because that happened to me, and it was amazing. She said, you just look like somebody, I'm drawn to you for some reason. Like, I just think you are going to be able to tell me what it is I'm searching for. And she told me this whole thing about her job and how her boss was just on her all the time, and she said, but I'm always doing my job. I do more than everybody else. And I said, that's why she's on you. She expects more of you because you're the only one giving her what she wants. As soon as you stop letting that bother you and just keep doing your job, she'll start picking on them.
Oh my gosh.
But you're allowing her to get to you, and you're doing your job, so let it go.
Well, I'm recruiting right now, and I think it's such a great, I love nothing more than helping somebody get a job. And this is why I always wonder, why do
I'm sure your people that you help also love that.
Well, they do,
Yeah.
but I get paid to recruit to place somebody, but then I always end up helping the person, like with their resume, and I'm like, you have to shift this, and even if it's not this job, it's somewhere else. And of course, my husband's always like, there's a business there. I'm like, well, then why don't you start it? Because I'm done starting businesses, my friend. But I've heard so many like sad stories almost from the women, and this one stands out in particular. I was interviewing this woman a few weeks ago, and she was telling me about how her last role she wasn't given a raise in 6 years.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, yeah. Oh my gosh. But the first thing I thought was, well,
Why didn't you ask?
Right, exactly.
So, I was shocked by it. Like you let 6 years go by, and now you're going to complain about it. Well, sister, you're going to have to stand up for yourself. And then, ironically, I sent her off to try to get the job, and she told the person the same thing. So she's not getting that position. But I think that, if there aren't women that can inspire you to ask for the raise or to leave the toxic job or to tell your story, one of the most inspiring things that I hear are women that are successful tell that. Are we allowed to curse on the podcast?
Oh yeah. We can absolutely curse.
Okay, cool.
Absolutely, yes.
Like
I already did once.
Yes,
absolutely.
absolutely.
It's so commonplace for me. Just to really talk about the shit that messed them up, and the mistakes that they made on the job. And to share that, because I know that's when you tell that story, how much it affects somebody else. To know that they're, oh my God, they made that mistake and then they turned it around, they did this. And we've talked about Achievers bringing on some more formal mentoring where it's something that, we definitely roll out because
We actually talked about it in one of the earlier podcasts about doing a mentor program, like a real one, an Achievers one.
Right.
Because, a lot of people do the mentoring through Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and
Tampa Bay
that's
Business
definitely-
Journal does Mentoring Mondays.
Yeah, I just signed up to do like a formal program for the first time ever, and I'm so curious how it goes. It's with USF, and so it's a student, and I'm the mentor. And part of me feels like it's very formal, but at the same time, like I will do it, and I will do the things, and there's a comfort to like, here's what you're supposed to do. Within a week, set up your first meeting, and there's an app, and you chat through that. And I think it'll be interesting to see like how they. I think they matched me up with a student who's going to school for education because I'm at an education foundation. That's not my background, so that'll be interesting. But I'm kind of interested how the formal mentoring. I think it's 12 weeks.
Will you be
Plays
channeling
out.
Kathy in there?
I'm gonna try.
Channeling
I think
Kathy.
I'm old enough now that
So
I
I have
some
a
wisdom
question
for a college
for
student.
you though.
Yeah.
In that formal setting, do they have a place where you can go back and follow up? Because that's,
It's
to
gonna
me,
be
the
interesting.
mentoring
The follow-up,
the follow-up is key to
Yeah.
being a mentor.
So I didn't realize it was such a short time frame. It's 12 weeks. And then I kind of realized, oh, I think there's an app because they're enabling us not to have each other's personal information at first. Okay, maybe. But I thought, at the end of 12 weeks, if this is a useful relationship for her,
You wanna
and
continue.
For me, and it kind of says that, like, you could continue if you wanted to, but I think you video chat through the app and you message and set up it tells the mentee to request a meeting with you and suggest a date. And then I'm curious to just have the first video with her because just kind of typing messaging back and forth with someone you've never met is kind of weird. And then I think we're supposed to try to do in person a certain number of times at events or something like that. She's a scholar in the Women in Leadership and Philanthropy program at USF that I'm part of. So I'm not a USF alum, but that's how I got connected with it. And I thought, I should do this because I don't feel like I do enough to sort of like start to give back to younger women that are coming up. And in the workplace, sometimes I think it's hard to know sort of who. It's not a formal situation versus a college student who wants to be part of this more formalized program. But I've never done anything like that before. So I don't know
I
what to
just finished a
expect.
whole year mentoring a student with HCC, a veteran woman.
Oh, nice.
Which was so gratifying and so wonderful. I think I probably broke every rule. Like, I think she has my home address, because when she's
You had her over for cocktails?
I was just going to say, right?
Hit it off,
You guys are
though.
besties.
Yeah, like I wanted to help so much because my goodness, a woman that, is a veteran and she's putting herself back through an entrepreneurship program in college and mentoring is like the greatest gift.
It's really cool.
Yeah,
And it
I'm
was
sure you
a
got as
lot of
much out of
follow-through.
it as
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that the school does a great job of, it makes sense that they do that so they don't like take advantage of your time. But I think that, most women that I know that have gone through those types of mentorship programs don't take advantage. They're just so grateful that they have somebody
That they have someone to bounce
to,
things off
yeah.
of. Yeah.
Well, I got news for you ladies. What you see here today is not the person that I always was. Believe it or not, at one time in my
tell
life,
us.
I was very shy.
Get out of here.
Really?
Come on now.
Very shy. Really.
Was it
What brought you
that reinventing yourself? Was that around the time that you
No,
changed
no,
it?
no,
Or
no. I'm talking about when I was very, very young. But it took me, and I for myself, whatever inspiration I had, I don't know, but I can't put an actual. I have an event that was my inspiration. I was bullied and I was picked on, and I remember standing in the playground at school, calling out this little bitch,
I love it.
and
How old were you?
10.
10?
And had the crowd around me, rallying around, and realizing at that point that she was just a big mouth bully, and for me to finally stand up for myself was the day that I said, I'm not taking this crap from anybody anymore. So but you shouldn't have to get to that point if you've got somebody that you can.
Well, you said you didn't have someone that inspired you at an early age or a mentor.
Right.
You just kind of took it on yourself.
Right.
And it's funny, I didn't have a mentor when I was really young either. It wasn't until I started my professional career. There was one teacher, I remember Sharon Henderson, and she was, this was middle school. And I do remember her she was the teacher. It's funny. She was the teacher that was like the mean teacher. Or when I say mean, she was a teacher. She was very, it's the Sharons. She didn't take any bullshit.
Right.
And she, definitely, like held court to a certain extent. And she wasn't all like, singing and fluffy roses constantly and, it's fine. She was a little bit more strict. I loved her. I loved her. And while I wouldn't say she was a mentor, because obviously I didn't go on to become a teacher, I I liked her so much, and she, for some reason, it just always stuck with me. But I didn't really, it wasn't until much later in my career that I started recognizing those mentors. And it's funny, when you talk about inspiration being other things, not just the mentor, I think inspiration can be anything. Like sometimes I'm inspired by music. I'll listen to a song and all of a sudden I'm inspired to just go, like, whether it's to kick ass or to, I mean, just, I just need some strength. So I'm going to get some strength from like a really awesome, song or a podcast. I'm inspired sometimes. I'm a foodie. I'm inspired by food sometimes.
Are you kidding?
Oh, obviously.
I order everything in every restaurant just so I can taste it and see it and see what they do.
Yeah.
I was even looking at when I went to the hotel yesterday for the empowerment. I'm literally lifting up the candle on the thing, looking at, well, what are this? Because that's what inspires us. We go and look at all the things that other people do, and that is the biggest compliment you can give somebody, is to copy what they've done.
Oh, that is absolutely.
I feel like when you disconnect too, you can get inspired in different ways. Like I found when I'm overworking myself, I have no inspiration. And then suddenly, like, I had like this really good idea when I finally had I had some weekends where I was working to catch up. And then you go back Monday and you're like, more work. And then the next weekend I totally disconnected. I didn't do one thing. I didn't think about work. And like Monday morning I'm taking a shower and I was like, and I had this really good idea, and I was like, that just came out of letting my brain be free for a minute. Like, because your inspiration can be from, like, just letting your brain, like, not be always thinking about and worrying about all the things, and just having an open mind, and then a food or nature or a song or whatever can put an idea in your mind that just wasn't even going to be there if it was so full.
I think as long as you're open to it, you're always going to be inspired. And that's why it was so hard for me to put just a name on it, because I all these things kept popping in my head, and it's like, yes, that inspires me every day, or this inspired me last week, or I think it's constant. If you're
inspired
open
by your playground story, by the way. Like, it took me like 20 more years to figure out how to stand up for myself, but I'm thinking I wish on the playground I'd stood up to that bully.
10,
because I didn't. I can think back to a time I wish I had someone that inspired me to stand up for myself, because it took me too long to learn that lesson.
Well, nobody inspired me. I just had enough, and so after that, my own inspiration was, I don't have to take this.
God, I can only imagine what the other kids watching you do that, because obviously this person was a bully, probably to many other people, not just you.
And I didn't know that.
But just, and I'm sure this bully, they're clearly in pain and they have issues of their own. And for you to come out and say, oh, no, not anymore.
Right.
And you said you had the circle around you, because everybody's, that moment could have been significant, not just for you and the bully, but for other people too. I mean, there really is.
Oh, yeah, this bitch said to me one day, I love your skirt. I used to have one just like it. Then my father got a job.
Oh.
No, you didn't.
Hell no. That is brutal.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my.
God.
You know what's
People
inspiring?
can be mean.
Yes.
Jesus.
Communication. Like real, open,
Yeah, exactly.
honest dialogue. Really like listening to, look at what has changed even within Achievers, and Amanda coming in and changing it from the chamber to amplify, and all of this, movement, and a lot of uncomfortable or honest communication. Like, I find that so inspiring, because when people see that, and when our kids see that, they get inspired to be more honest. And, I say this a lot to doctors when I have to have a tough conversation. I usually lean in and say, I'm going to have to say a few things to you today. It's going to be a little bit uncomfortable, but you know what? We're going to get through it. We're going to get through it right to the end, and then everything's going to be great. But you have to have the courage to be honest and communicate, and do it in a space that is safe. And I feel like you attract those people the more honest you get with yourself. Like that moment that you were like, I am not standing for this biatch anymore. I'm going to say who I am. your tribe gets attracted
Why
to you,
is it
right?
that we wait so long to do that? Do you ever notice that we talk about old people, like think about people who are like in their 80s and 90s, and they say, oh, they don't give a
Whatever they want.
they don't
Right.
care.
No
There's
filter.
no filter. Why do we wait so long? Why do we get to that? I don't give a.
I think it's the security issue that for me that you said before. Like it took me longer to get to a point where I felt secure enough that if someone doesn't like me, because I'm going to tell them that this is not okay, that I don't accept this, that I don't need their approval, whatever it is, like that took a long time for me to get to a place. And I feel like I kind of went through some, with a prior, like in a professional scenario, I went through something where it was like, I actually checked all the boxes and did all the right things and did exactly what was expected to me. And I still got the flip off. Okay.
Just be
This
like
doesn't
me
have
and
to
just
be
know
how this
everybody
goes.
doesn't like me.
This is
Yeah.
not, yeah. Now I'm like, well, I've just got to that point where I'm like, if people don't like me because I'm telling them the truth or I'm doing what needs to be done or I'm standing up for someone or I'm saying this doesn't work, I really don't care. And it's a recent flip switch for me, like in the last
That's
5 years,
amazing.
I'd say, but I'm like,
That's why I
I don't know,
say
I'm not trying to be a jerk.
I just
Like,
go in
I
and say,
don't-
if nobody likes me, and if somebody does like me, I'm surprised.
Right. Expectation. But sometimes when you're just telling people like it is, they don't like it. And or if you're telling people that they haven't done what they're supposed to or that they're not, you have to be honest with people if they're not meeting expectations or just telling people like it is.
I know,
That's why that
but
line by Jack
but
Nicholson
being
is still so
being the
popular.
boss is
handle the You can't, right?
being the boss is you got to take all of it together. You got to take the joy and the glory.
Well,
and
yeah.
you
When
gotta
you're the
take
boss, when you're the
You can't
boss,
be a dick.
You can't be. Oh,
When you're the boss.
Yep.
Just saying.
You
Hashtag
definitely
don't
do
be a
not
dick.
want to be a dick at
Yes,
all.
no, you don't.
No.
So, but it comes to with the territory. I mean, you just kind of don't have a choice because you've got hard choices to make. You've got a business to run, and
Yeah.
you can't be all wishy-washy and soft about it because
It has to be done and it is what it is.
But it is funny because I think about the number of times you've seen someone who is elderly and just gives zero fucks whatsoever, and you're like, God, that was inspirational,
Like
right
Larry
there.
David.
That was inspirational. It's like, oh, just say whatever's on your mind. Just say what I don't want to do something, so I don't do it. I'm not going to do it. Or we don't. It's so funny how sometimes we wait a really long time to do that, and then we look at it and talk about inspiration. It's like, God, I wish I could do that. Well, why don't you?
Yeah, stop doing things you don't want to do.
So that's another thing. So when you're looking at what inspires you, do you find that you see it because you wish you could do that?
oh, sure, absolutely. You're always thinking, like I went to New York with my daughter. We met. She was there on business, and I kept saying, when it was over with, it's like something that I would never do for myself. And I said, I got to do this. I got to make this something that I do 2 or 3 times a year, even if I go by myself. And it just sounds so simple, but it's something that I thoroughly enjoyed. I enjoyed going to all the restaurants and seeing everything and just being in that pulse and that beat. It
Gets the juices
It got
flowing
all my
and-
juices
yeah,
flowing. And
yeah.
I'm like, I need to do this. This
Yeah.
is not something that I just want to do. But had she not gone, I don't know when the next time I would have gone to do something like that. So I always said, no, I need to do that. I need to do that. I'm doing that right now. I'm trying to go to the restaurant show in Chicago, and there's another show in New York, and they're back to back, and I can't, in my mind, I'm trying to justify going to 2 different shows in 2 different months. And I'm like, why am I worried about that? Just
go.
go. What the hell? Who's stopping me?
Yeah, yeah. We can't. It's funny because you have no reason to not do that.
No.
But then sometimes we look at things that inspire us, and it's like, is it our own insecurities that are holding us back from doing what we see others doing?
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's why it's when we go back to the mentor thing, where you have to say to somebody, and when you even mentioned about Amanda, I mean, when the chambers were merging, and I was on the Clearwater Beach board, and I went to her office and I said, I just need a minute. But I said, I would feel really crappy if I didn't at least let you know that if there's a spot on the board, I would still like to continue my work with the chamber. And because what do you do? You sit back and you say nothing? Mm-hmm. and you're aspiring to continue to do this, because all of that inspiration of those two boards coming together, I was on board 100%. And for that, I wanted to continue to be a part of that. And so if I hadn't told her that and I wasn't considered, I would have never forgiven myself for not opening my mouth.
But good for you, because we're still, like, even about the salary thing, about that, like, in my opinion, we're still socialized as women to not ask for what we want or to say what we need. And I'm, like, the same. Like, I don't feel like I was brought up that was okay to do. So I had to learn that about salary discussions, about other things, and I'll still say easier said than done. It doesn't come naturally for me when it's like, well, I'm stepping up and saying I want a spot. That means that's a spot someone else might have had, but I want it.
Right.
For that to feel okay, I have to talk myself through that sometimes, that it's okay to want something for myself that might mean someone else doesn't get it. I was brought up to share and to be a nice girl and to play nice, like Southern all the way, right? Like all those things. And, you know, in business and in life, sometimes you have to realize you don't get anything that you don't ask for sometimes.
You know, it's funny. I was raised not Southern because I'm from New York, but the same thing, to be nice, to play nice, to share, all of those things. And I would say that for the most part, I'm rather agreeable. But when it does come to the workplace, especially for women, we're still, no matter what, I mean, we all have very high profile positions. But yet we're still supposed to, get the pat on the head, which came from another previous podcast. That whole, just your role, your place. And it's funny because I do remember we talk about inspiration. I came from a very large organization, the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C., where our executive director, our CEO, is a woman who took, no bullshit there. And then Amy Ferrier, I gave her a shout out in another one. She was the deputy chief development officer, and one of those people who just, she didn't, I looked up to her because she didn't take anyone's bullshit the way you're supposed to when you're working with other people that are like, oh, no. You just, don't ask. Don't make waves. You know your role. You know your place. And it's funny because you see inspiration in all of those little things, and they make a huge impression on us.
Yeah. Well, I know not the city of Clearwater, but another city. I was sitting on the board recently, and this woman who had a very high-powered job was let go and had nothing but an incredible, impeccable tenure at this position. And I was a board member, and I left the board because I was so inspired by her being a woman that didn't just agree with everything that was said. Mm-hmm. Like, the reason that she's no longer there is because she did disagree with most things. And that's really what I want to be around as a woman in business, as a woman in the community. I don't want to be the agreeable one, because I see it way too much. And yes, you might be able to stay at the job. You might be able to make more money if you do it. But I'll tell you what, you certainly won't feel good about yourself when you put your head on that pillow, that you were the person that just went along, And I know, for me personally, the adversity, like you were sharing, I think adversity is the greatest lesson that we could all have to inspire us to go for more. And I remember when I was writing this book about mental health, and I'm sober 27 years, and I say that because I want somebody that might be listening to know that I am a sober woman who was once, in a mental institution when she was 19 years old. I remember my husband saying, "You work with such high-level professionals. Are you sure you want to put this out there?" And I was like, "Yes, sir." Because if you don't want to work with me as somebody who has overcome adversity, and that I have learned this through all these other women that have come before me that have taught me that you have to stand in your truth. Because, like, being inspired is one thing, but not taking an action is another. We can be inspired all day long.
But not, right? But
right?
Are we letting it make a difference?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We were talking earlier about something, and I had this mental picture of you sitting in a boardroom and thinking, because it's happened to me before, where we're talking about things, and I just don't agree with the conversation, and I want to say something, and I know that if I say something, it's probably because half of the people in the room are thinking it, and they're just afraid to say it.
Yeah.
But it's that gut instinct that tells you this is just wrong, and I can't keep my mouth shut any longer.
And that is a scary thing to do.
Oh, it's very scary. But when your gut tells you, I don't listen to my head or my heart half the time. But when my gut is telling me this is just, if it looks like a rat and it smells like a rat, it's a rat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and good, like, my opinion is, like, good decisions are made when there's a lot of different people and different opinions at the table. It's why diversity is a good thing. So, like, good leaders don't hire people that all think like them. Like, if you have a good person above you, which I right now really do, like, I feel like half the time you're paying me to think, you're paying me to disagree, to have a different idea, to come with a different perspective. I don't want to be anyone's yes person, because I feel like I have a brain and you're paying me to use it. So,
Correct.
but
Absolutely.
there are people that just want people to agree with them, and that's, you know, why you choose your jobs carefully. You find out that you're in the right place where someone actually wants your opinion, or it's not somewhere that I would want to be.
Right. Oh, that's exactly right. I agree with that 1,000%.
Well, when you think about all the people that we just have talked about that inspire us, I mean, the things that inspired us about them was that they were there and they were working well with other people, but they were also standing up for what they believed in. And they were helping each other. They were doing that, going the extra mile, communicating. So,
Well, I think you're right.
I love it.
Us inspiring other people gives us the inspiration to continue on.
Yeah.
Because so many people, you know this, you meet people all the time that just don't have that gumption. They just need that nudge to say, I want to do that too. And you sometimes just have to be that nudge.
So speak up, ladies.
That's right.
Open
Exactly.
your damn mouth.
I mean, you all inspire me. I've picked something from each of you, something that you said, and it's just, it gets the mind going of how we go out and we live our lives and inspire others. And maybe we can create this really good, you know, Achievers mentorship. You know, just this has come up several times, so that's exciting. We want to continue this conversation. And I want to hear from you about some other conversations that we want to have. I've asked this at every podcast, and future
I know what I
podcast
want to
themes.
talk about. I want to talk about gossiping.
Ooh, that's a good one.
And how
Right.
bad it is.
I
right?
want to
Like,
talk
About how spilling the
Because
tea
I
can't
have this
necessarily.
I have this hanging on my wall in my office.
Yeah, read it.
If you didn't hear it with your own ears or see it with your own eyes, don't invent it with your small mind and share it with your big mouth.
I love it.
like
I
the
feel like
small mind.
gossip. Yeah, I feel like gossip would be a really good conversation.
Gossip
Think
is-
about rumors. We were
Yes.
just talking about that before.
Rumors, just gossip.
The
and rumors.
rumors.
They just spread like cancer. And it's,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
horrible.
unless you hear it from someone's mouth. Oh my gosh, is that not the truth? And it's so funny, I think, because we're also in a very small town. So rumors are huge.
Tampa Bay is actually really
Huge.
tiny.
So tiny. So tiny. I mean, yeah, really small. But, you know, what about you? What do you want to talk
mental
about?
health in the workplace.
Okay,
all
so
day
we are
long.
talking mental.
Like,
I
that
swear
has
we've
to
gotten
happen.
like 5 or 6 mental health.
thank
So we
God.
have to, mental
Good.
health is definitely on the docket.
And especially mental health in the workplace.
Specifically
Mental
in the
health, yes, but
workplace.
specifically in the workplace. Because if you are safe to speak about mental health, if you are safe to call in because you have anxiety, or call in because you are feeling sad or depressed, or that you just lost somebody that you loved, then you are in a hell of a job.
Oh yeah, because that doesn't really exist. Yeah, not
But
so
we
much.
can make
Yes, it
that
does.
happen.
Well,
At your place, at my
yeah,
place too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just don't
Oh, that's
call in dead.
amazing. Just don't call in dead.
That's all.
Yeah. What about
Yeah,
you?
you only got 2 reasons why you're not at work. You're in
That
jail
I'm
or you're dead. Yeah.
Yeah, we grew up
Yeah.
with this.
I think those are the only 2 reasons, right?
I'm not sure. I was thinking maybe something about philanthropy. I'm not sure what. I'm not sure what the angle is, but I honestly, the thought I had in thinking about this podcast didn't come up in any of our conversations, but I was thinking that, you know, what inspires me at work is the people who want to make a difference and want to do good. And with all the bad things happening, you know, in the world right now, like seeing the people that just want to help, and getting to see, you know, people that do things that I'll never have the means to do on my salary, but people that are like, oh, that's the problem. Let me help you fix it. I have days that I feel like I get paid to do this. Like this is a great gig we got.
Working in philanthropy is pretty incredible because
it's like a blessing in so many ways, because I feel like there's days that, you know, my husband doesn't, you know, love his job right now, and my friend was saying to me, yeah, but he's comparing himself to you, and you come home like, today. And I'm like, well, that's true. Like, I really do love what we do, and I love fundraising. And to me, it's, you know, people think asking people for money, but I think I'm connecting to people to what they're passionate about and what like a privilege and a pleasure most of the time. There are some times that it's not, but most of the time. And then to also be at an organization that I really love now, I do come home pretty happy about my job every day, even when I work
so important.
Too hard. And I feel like there's so many good things happening in our community philanthropy-wise that I don't know what the show is. But
I think there's a lot you could talk about.
Positive.
Because it is really positive. And it is, you know, if you work for a really good organization, it's always exciting to be able to share with philanthropists who are giving you money exactly what their money is doing to affect change. And that's an incredible thing. So, yeah, I'm all about that subject, too.
Yeah, we had some, like, just crazy things happen during COVID, and, like, you know, people you've never met before over Zoom making amazing and I'm just like, I actually am.
That's inspirational.
The heart of our community is more than I even ever gave it credit for. So I think it'd be interesting. I don't know if it's interviewing philanthropists or talking about different projects that are going on. And I know there's things amidst our group that happen with some of the women that are in our group. So I know there's quite a few of us that get to see those things happening.
That just brings to mind, you know, since we're talking about inspiration, and you bringing up what some people did during COVID. During COVID, how some of us came out of it, or even just during COVID, did some incredible things that were truly inspiring and that kind of put your faith back in humanity. That could be a whole other topic.
Heck yeah. Just the COVID story, right? Like, I always want to know, like, how did you get through? What was it like? Tough moments.
I know. I mean, think about it. We went through a global pandemic. We're still in it. We're still in it.
Yeah.
But a global pandemic, you know, but then, you know, now there's other things that are going on right now that, you know, we're just kind of going in from one crazy, you know, world event to another crazy world event. I would really like to be able to, for maybe a little while, maybe just a few months, to not have like a major world event happening, right? Like, I feel like in the last few years, I'm just kind of over having a constant, insane world
just keep
event.
Hearing about Tom Brady coming back to the
right.
Does that inspire you?
I mean,
yes, right.
It made me feel good that it wasn't, you know,
without
horrible
something
news.
pressing down. Like, even when it's a day that COVID or whatever isn't part of your day to day.
Yeah.
I think it'd be interesting to talk about like how we had to get back to. You sort of have to, like, even after a few weeks, be like, okay, but I still have to figure out how to fundraise because this still needs to happen and this still needs to happen.
Oh
and
my gosh, yeah.
Focus and like focus on the little things. And yet there's this other big thing continuing to press down and press down. And now it feels like something else. And it's just an odd, like, you have to go about your day-to-day life.
Life still goes on.
Despite, like, people are having, people are losing people and tragedy and everything that's happening. But we all had to keep moving forward. And I think there's some level of PTSD.
Oh my
probably.
God, the alerts that are on my
Afterwards.
phone. I'm like, are you kidding me? The next story of this is coming out of Ukraine. I'm like, I would just really like to have a small, it doesn't have to be a long period of time, but just a small period of time where we don't have literally a world event, major world event that's going to be in like a history book.
Right.
That would be great.
So to bring it back to our topic of inspiration, so we should all be inspired to live our best life, right?
Absolutely.
Because we never know when the shit's gonna blow up
Mm-hmm.
again.
I read something. I read like a little book every morning that, you know, I'd call it like a devotional, like it's a Christian related thing. But there was something I read the other day, and I got to go back and like write it down. I thought I need to put that on my mirror. It said something like, it's probably a quote from someone. a life well lived is a choice made day by day. And I was like, that is for some reason hitting me just like in a certain way right now.
Hard,
But, like,
yeah.
when I've had really long days that I've allowed to be that, and then I'm tired and I'm unhappy about that was my choice. Like, and then I have to make a choice that,
Right.
because I took like a reset day the other day, which just meant I'm not doing anything after work. I'm going to go home. I'm not going to cook. I'm going to order food. I'm going to have a minute. I'm going to read my book in the quiet. And I was like, I'm like a new person, like an hour later, and I
Right.
needed it. And I was like, but my choices are what put me in that like frazzled, stressed out place. And I have to take responsibility for those choices and realize I get to make that choice every day, what I do with my time and whether it's going to be positive and I'm going to feel good about it at the end of the day, and not like I've let someone down, like I've let my husband down because I work so long or whatever, that you make that choice every day.
Yeah.
Well, to circle back to what Sharon was saying, when I was sitting here thinking, one of the amazing things that's come out of this pandemic is, I will tell you that with the chamber being so successful and Achievers and the great group of women that are in this group, and the things that we have done in this time frame that look so awesome, that are giving back, and I'm inspired by all the women that are in that group.
Me too.
So.
Yeah, for sure.
Me too.
Yeah, I loved Maggie's story at
Oh,
the
our
luncheon.
luncheon was amazing.
Yeah, it really was good.
It was truly amazing.
It was a very good, but I thought it was just a really good, like, we just need to work together and build each other up and bring each other along the best we can.
Yes.
All
Let's
right.
keep doing that.
Well, thank you so much,
Thank
ladies.
you,
I
Kelly.
appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
Great
you.
host you are.
I'm pro.
Second Soul Studios is a full-service production studio with capabilities for photo, video, podcasting, editing, co-working, and more. Our photo video studio has a number of different backdrop choices and props to choose from. We also have a gourmet kitchen set, or if you're an upstart podcaster, you'll love our 4-person podcast studio. So what are you waiting for? Visit secondsoulstudios.com to book a tour today.